When I was 14, my parents left me home alone one night. They were going to a party that was just for adults, and they would be gone for a long time. I had already been staying home by myself without a babysitter for quite a while, so this wasn't exactly something unusual. My other choice would have been to go over to a grandparent's house, but I really didn't want to do that. They left rather early in the evening, and I knew that they would be home really late as well. That didn't bother me, as it likely wouldn't bother any teenager. I was too busy getting the whole house to myself for a while. The thing I remember most about that day, though, was how windy it was. It began when I was at school. The wind had begun picking up and howling throughout the day. By the time I had gotten out of school and was on my way home, it had to be close to 20 miles per hour. It was difficult as hell trying to walk home in it. But once I actually arrived home, everything was fine. After about an hour after my parents had left, though, I suddenly heard our doorbell ringing. I went downstairs to answer the door. When I opened it up, there was a strange man that I had never seen before, standing right at my front door. "Hey there, can I speak to your parents?" he asked me, smiling. "My mom's a bit indisposed at the moment," I responded. You know, when I was 14, I thought that sounded like the most clever thing I could tell the guy. I thought it sounded convincing, but I think we all know now that it was not. "I'm selling these discount books for a restaurant downtown, and I would like to speak to an adult about them." I told the guy my dad was at work and would be there late. Yeah, looking back, this was another mistake. Just at work, leaving off "would be there late" would have been a much better choice in this situation. The man thanked me and left, surprisingly. I closed the door and locked it. I then went back upstairs to watch television in my bedroom. I'm not sure exactly how long I laid there on my bed just watching television. I was also listening to the sound of the wind outside. There's something I really enjoy about them. Some people really like rainy days or snowy days, but I've always liked the really windy ones. Suddenly I heard a crash outside. Getting up, I ran to the side window and looked out it. It was already dark, but I could make out what looked like one of our garbage cans that got knocked over by the wind. Although it startled me at first, this wasn't exactly unusual on a severely windy day. I decided I would wait for the commercial, and then I would go outside and pick the can up. As I was watching my TV show, though, I began hearing a lot more noises as the wind kept blowing things around. I kept telling myself that the garbage could just wait for my show, but the more noise I continued to hear, the more I realized exactly what kind of mess would be there waiting for me if I decided to wait much longer. So I gathered myself up and was prepared to go and clean up the garbage can. I walked out of my bedroom and down the hallway. I made it down 3 stairs before I stopped dead. One of the lights downstairs was on. That wasn't enough to make me stop, though, as it was very possible that I had left it on. But nothing I could have done could have accounted for the shadow that I saw from around the corner, moving on the opposite wall. Someone was in our house. I waited for a moment, trying to determine if I had made enough noise to be noticed, but whatever the person was doing, they were not coming toward the stairs. I decided that whatever noises I had been making thus far must have been covered up by the noise of the wind. Very slowly, I began to walk backwards up the stairs. Once I got up to the top, I crept back into my bedroom and quietly locked the door. I went to my closet, because I figured that in addition to the wind, it would further muffle any sound I would make. I then called the police and let them know an intruder was in my home. It was a nightmare waiting there for them to show up. It probably seemed much longer to me than it actually was, but I simply remained there in the closet. The wind was still making noise, and I was at times unsure whether the noise was coming from the house or from the wind outside. With how loud the wind was, the man could have probably even made it all the way upstairs without me even knowing it. However, the police arrived and apprehended him before he had any chance of coming to get me. Not that in retrospect I think he had any intention of doing so. I think he had just thought the noise from the wind was enough to mask a break-in. It would have been too if it hadn't been for that garbage can getting knocked over earlier. Oh, and yeah, it was the supposed salesman from earlier. When you're young and home alone, be careful who you let know you're home alone. I have only one really scary experience that I can remember, and there's no way that I can really understand or explain exactly what happened either. This happened when I was in college. It was the beginning of winter break, and I was driving back to my parents' house for the time. It was quite a long drive too. I had a really old Mustang LX that I had just fixed up. Although my car was extremely shabby looking, it was also extremely reliable, and it would take me through the many states that it took to get me home. Now, the only issue I had with driving home was that I was one of those people who would keep driving to see just how far I could get in one go, and when I did that, I would often get so very tired that it was dangerous to drive. I had enough money for a motel each night though, so I would find one and get a lot of sleep while I could. On the second day, I was driving through the mountains. This was a while back, before everyone had smartphones and the ability to check the weather on the fly. It was an extremely windy day, and that of course made driving much more difficult, but I was still determined to make good time. I kept driving well into the night, without making any stops along the way. By the time I was finally tired, it turned out I was unable to find a motel. When I finally came across a sign that told me where the next one was, I think I recalled that it was at least 70 miles away, and my eyes were already beginning to close on their own. There was just no way that I would be able to make it that entire way this tired. Eventually, although I knew it wasn't a safe thing to do, I had to pull my car off to the side of the road and try to get some sleep in the car. I had done that a few times when I had been out drinking, so I knew that I would at least be able to get some rest, get back up, and get back on my way. The only thing that I was worried about was a car driving by that night, and the wind being too rough for them too. I would hate to be hit like that. That was a chance I had to take though, or I might have fallen asleep at the wheel myself. I pulled the car over and climbed into the back seat. I want to explain what it was like being in the car in that weather. It was rough. The wind was constantly shaking the car, and every now and then there would be a really strong burst of wind that would really rock the car hard as it howled through the mountains. I was fortunate that I actually liked that sort of weather, so I was able to rest through it. It didn't take very long for me to fall asleep, but the wind did cause me to wake up every now and then. Somehow, though, I managed to fall back asleep every time. One of the times I woke up, though, it felt a little bit different for some reason. I guess that's hard to explain if you weren't there, but if you've ever been asleep in a car when it's windy outside, you might know what I mean. It didn't feel like it was the shaking of the car that woke me up. It seemed like it was something else. Now keep in mind how exhausted I was. I looked around the windows of the car, trying to wipe the blurriness out of my eyes. By the time I did, I noticed something I could not explain. On the window by where my feet were, which was facing the road, there was something tapping on my window. It looked like a finger, but I couldn't quite be sure. It was tapping over and over on the window. At first, I didn't do anything. I was too scared to move. I don't really believe in cryptids or anything of that nature. My thoughts were that it was probably a person, although what person and why that person would be doing such a thing, I have no idea. As I lay there, I wondered what exactly to do. I looked around the car to see if I could find anything to use as a weapon. There was a tire cross under the passenger seat of the car. I knew that would have to do if I needed it. I stayed awake all through the night, watching that finger or whatever it was, tapping on my window. The worst thing to ever happen to me because of my pure stupidity. Hell, I'm not afraid to admit that. I can take responsibility for the bad things I've done. This happened in the very late fall on Lake Michigan. My friend Todd and I decided we were going to take our boat out on the lake no matter what. Well, we shouldn't have. It was way late in the year to do it, and it was pretty windy that day as well. But we decided that it would be adventurous for us to do so, and so we went to do it. We knew it was going to be super windy. Like I mentioned, that was the point. But once we were out and far enough from shore, the wind simply began to pick up more and more. It got much worse than either of us had initially expected. Due to the ferocity of the wind, we decided that we needed to get the boat to shore as quickly as possible, so we started to head in that direction. The wind was so strong though, and the boat was so small, that there were times when I didn't think we could even make it. Todd took the wheel, and I went back under the deck to get some jackets for us. It was getting cold outside, and I thought it might help us against the wind. While I was down there as well, I found enough gear for us to try and keep warm. When I came back up again though, Todd was no longer at the wheel. I looked around on deck and I didn't see him anywhere. I called his name out in a panic and tried to tell him that if he was playing a joke on me, now was not the time to do so. But he wasn't there. He was not on the boat. Quickly I began scanning the lake around it. I thought it was possible that he got hit by a strong gust of wind and had been knocked overboard, but no matter where I looked, I could not find him. I stopped the boat, turned it around to search back in the area that we had traveled over, and began looking for him in the water. I called out for him. He had a life jacket on when I last seen him, so I hoped that I would have been able to find him. I searched and searched and searched, but there was nothing. There was no sign of him. There was no life jacket. There was no body. There was nothing. He was simply gone. I didn't want to go back to shore at that time. I wanted to keep searching for him, and I did. I kept looking, going over and over, around and around, trying to find any sign of my friend. Hell, I ended up in places that we hadn't even traveled near, thinking the wind and current may have taken him away. For hours and hours I searched, and I was not able to find him in the end. Eventually I had to give up because it was too dangerous. I had to report on what happened. He was never found though. As huge as the lake is, it has to be easy for someone to just disappear on it. I can't tell you how it feels to not only lose your friend in the middle of a huge lake and be responsible for it, but the feeling of utter defeat I felt when I realized I would never find him and I had to give up the search. Because of this event, to this day I am still terrified of both the water and the wind. What is up guys, Blue Spooky here as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. I hope you guys are enjoying this sort of daily upload thing. I'm trying to upload as much as possible while I still have the time to, mostly because I find it fun and there's not much else to do while COVID is around, so I hope you guys are enjoying that. If you guys liked the video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. These stories were all submitted to me through my email by subscribers. If you guys would also like to submit stories for me to read in the video, please be sure to take a look in the description below. It will have links to all my social media, including my Facebook, Gmail, and Twitter accounts. You can go ahead and send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to get back to your story as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include as much detail as you feel comfortable with, so I can make it a nice, healthy, long video. Also, please be sure to include in the tagline what the name of the story is if it has one, the theme of the story if it has one, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. Also, make sure you use proper grammar and spatial paragraphs and all that stuff, because it's kind of hard to read wall of text submissions. If you guys are new to the channel and you like this, I have two other channels, one where I do disaster documentaries, and another one where I do true crime videos. I do both of those once a week. You'll find links to those in the description as well. Those are called Mr. Blue Skies and Darkest Hour, respectively. Special thanks to my artist. His links to his social media will be in the description below. He does all of my artwork for this channel, and he does the thumbnails as well. If you like his art, so you can check his social media out, and he'll be able to get you something real cool if you're in the mood for that. If you guys are curious about the music, it's listed in the description below in the order which it appears with links to the artists. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it for now, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.